You start this bad boy, it sounds like a diesel. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's long overdue, I think. Been, I think a couple months since I purchased the CK2620 Coyote Cab. Sold my CK3510 SE open station, and I made the switch to a cab with less horsepower. And I've had some inquiries about, hey, what do you think? Did you make the right decision? What do you like? What do you dislike? And so anyway, as I started to say, probably long overdue to let you know. I already have about 40 hours. I think I'm like an hour or so short from my 50-hour service, or needing to do my 50-hour service. So I thought it'd be a good time to at least tell you what I like about it, what I don't like about it. So for those of you that don't tune in on a regular basis, I'll give you just a short little brief history. I bought a CK3510 in 2019. I put 800 hours on it in 5 years and sold it myself for almost what I paid for it, and bought this tractor new from the dealership. Obviously, it's a smaller tractor as far as less horsepower, but it's the same frame size, right? Same, actually a better loader with a little bit more juice as far as structurally, it'll lift a little bit more. Same tire size, the same frame size. So really, the difference is the cab and the horsepower. It has a different engine. The CK2620, from my understanding, I'm no expert, is that this has the old CK35 motor in it, which is a 3-cylinder diesel, and then it's tuned down so that it meets the emissions requirements, doesn't do the regen stuff. And I was looking forward to not dealing with the regen. I never really seriously had any problems with it other than user error, but I just didn't like it, didn't want it. So one of the things, maybe I'll go through the things I like about it first. So one of the main things I like about the CK2620 is that it sounds like a tractor. It doesn't sound muffled. Doesn't start up smooth like a car. It's not super quiet. It sounds like a tractor. It sounds like a diesel motor. And in the morning, you're going to get a plume of diesel smoke. It's the smell of freedom. So when you start this bad boy, we'll get to the one thing I don't like. Has to be out of gear. My other one didn't have to do that. Safety feature. You start this bad boy, it sounds like a diesel. I like that. On that same note, when you start this thing up and it sounds like a diesel, it warms up a lot faster than my CK3510. At least in my mind, it does. The temperature gauge goes up a lot quicker. I don't know if it has to do with it being a different motor, if it has to do with the particulate filter not being on here. It seems like it warms up a lot faster. I like that because you can get to work faster. Because I like to let it warm up a little bit, start to see that temperature gauge move before I start working. So what's not to like about being in a cab? Temperature control, that's super nice. Being able to put on the air conditioner, put on the heat. I haven't quite mastered keeping it from fogging up if I don't want air conditioning or if I don't want heat. And I've heard other people talk about that. That's something I think I have to dial in yet. Most of the time, I do have the air conditioner on low, even when it's not super hot. It's very comfortable. The air conditioner definitely works great. I have used the heat a couple times. Haven't had the opportunity to use that a whole lot. Definitely a plus being in this environment, particularly when we were doing hay or when I've brush hogged or using the flail mower, not having all that dust coming up at you. You can see that I got a little bit of hay in here on the seat. A lot of guys just leave the plastic on the seat. To me, it's like, it's got a comfortable seat. I really don't want to be sticking to plastic, so I took the cover off. Maybe I'll regret it later, or maybe I'll put a seat cover on it. So not necessarily a tractor thing as far as specific to this tractor, but I went with the R14s this time. I really like them. I don't know how they're going to hold up long term. I've heard people say that they wear faster. But what I do like about them is they have really good tread as far as traction, and they don't fill up with big, huge lugs of mud. You know, I have a 400-foot driveway, paved driveway, like a wimp, because I got tired of dealing with gravel. And if I go out and play in the mud or do some work in the mud and come back, then I leave this bunny trail all the way up the hill of big mud clods. Not to say that this doesn't leave some, but it seems like it leaves less to me. So I like that. So this rear window does open and vent, and it's kind of nice if you need to reach in and mess with hydraulics. I've done that a couple times. You do have your 3-point handle back here, which is really handy. Not sure you really need it with the open station because you can actually reach, but on this one, it's a little more tricky. So it's nice to have that back here, especially for just a little bit of adjustments. You can see I have my hydraulic top link. I just have it bungeed up here because I took the bracket off that Kioti puts on because I swap between using it and not using it. And so that's just kind of a homemade setup right now. One thing I wish Kioti would do is I wish they'd put a shock on the other side of this window. I haven't heard of anybody breaking it while they're driving, leaving it open, but this doesn't seem awesome to me that there's just one shock. It seems like it could break. I don't know if it would, but I don't drive with it open unless I think when we were haying, I opened it a couple times to say something and then shut it because it just seems like it bounces a little bit too much to be open while you're driving. I don't know. Maybe even says that in the manual. Probably should look. Okay, so you do have speakers in here, and it's pre-plumbed for a stereo. You know, you can put in a Bluetooth stereo or whatever. Plug in auxiliary stereo, 12 volt. You have a charger and auxiliary. So I generally will, if I want to listen through the speakers, I'll plug my phone in, or I'll put my ear things in and listen that way. I don't really see the benefit of putting in a stereo. You can buy the stereos aftermarket to plug in here. I think best sound is when you have your ear things in. If I'm going to be out working and getting in and out of the cab, I have just left my phone plugged in, played music or whatever, and left the doors open while I'm out working and then jump back in to do something, you know, kind of an in and out kind of thing. But overall, I think best case scenario if you're working is to have ear protection on. It's a little louder than you would think. Okay, I mentioned already that you know we don't have the regen anymore, so I can just run and run and run. I don't have those 15-20 minute increments where the tractor wants to blow all the particulates out and clean itself out. I don't have to deal with that anymore. But on the downside is I went from a 35 to this 26, and it lacks power in some circumstances. So I haven't noticed it lacking power when I've been brush hogging or when I've been using my flail mower or when I've been using my loader, like to move firewood, that sort of thing. I think all of those are comparable, and I really haven't noticed any power drops during those circumstances. Where I've noticed a big difference in power is on hills, like on the paved road going to my neighbors, or carrying a heavy load, like when I was carrying a trailer full of hay. I had it in low all the way to the floor, and we were basically just crawling up the hill. We got up the hill, we got all the hay in, but I miss that having a little more power. I don't ever remember maxing out my 35, so I do miss some of that power. If you're familiar with these tractors, you're probably familiar with the fact that you can tune them. And I'm not going to get into that and tell you whether I'm going to do that or not because I haven't decided on that yet. But there are videos about how to do that and if you should do that and the results when you do that. That being said, I do miss the power in some circumstances. It's a trade-off, I think. Overall, I've been happy. One of the things I didn't anticipate was dealing with the doors. So I had to rearrange my little spot in the tractor shed where I store this unit because I was just used to jumping off the open station either side, no problem. That's a little bit different when you open these doors. They're pretty big, and it's nice that it gives you a wide berth to get out, but at the same time, you got to have that opening to get out. And it's much easier to get out on the step side that you're supposed to get out on than the other side. I wish there was an additional handle. Let's get into the things that I wish were different or that I don't particularly care for about it. I may have mentioned this before, but I really do not. I think I did when I did my grill video. I really do not like the fact that you have to open this to open this. And not a huge deal, but if you forget, you're going to be sad because you're going to bang the hood on the grill. And we have to be careful at the dealership where I work part-time because people come and look at them, and they'll try to open the hood without moving this, or they'll leave this down with the hood shut, and then when you hit it, you'll hit it with the loader. So I'm not liking that all that much. As far as the configuration of everything else is the same, other than it has air conditioning, which makes it a little more difficult to clean the grill, for particulates getting up against the grill screen and so on. The hood design is different than my last tractor as well. It's a little wider. This is supposed to be that tilling row guide, goes down the center of the hood. It's supposed to help you line up better or whatever. It has supposed to have better lights on it. So skid steer, quick attach up front. These are, I don't know, they seem more light duty than the ones I had in 2019 on my 35. They don't have the rubber handles on them. They're different, and I don't know why they seem lighter to me. The other thing I don't like is that this plate is wider, so when I go to hook into my forks, there's a lot more or a lot less room for error. I got to get it lined up a lot better because this just fit inside my forks to pick them up, whereas before, I think the 35 did not have this extra piece of metal on there, but it's a different loader, right? So it's the 4030C, the Canadian version, instead of the other one. So it is a different loader. The other thing that I noticed is that one of these was rattling. I looked at it and the bolt had worked out on this. So I tightened it back down. It has a spring on it, so not a big deal. But, inspecting your bolts is important because I probably would have lost that thing if I'd have waited much longer. I just was kind of doing a walk around and noticed it was loose and noisy and found that the bolt was loose. Another thing, speaking of the loader, this loader has some sort of stop on it, and maybe it's up front there or whatever, but I used to be able to run my other loader down into the ground, whereas this one, when you go to put it down, it has a stop before it hits the ground. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure, but I think it limits how far down I can go. But anyway, interesting. So I know other channels have talked about this, and it's just food for thought. You got to think about it. Is on this particular tractor, I've had these bolts on one of the rear wheels work loose twice, and so I've went through and torqued them and marked them with paint so that I can go around and inspect them. Same with the loader bolts. That's just something you have to do. You have to check to make sure that these stay tight and that they don't move. Some people put Loctite on them. That's up to you, but you need to inspect those, make sure you don't, because you're going to be sad if you lose those, right? That never happened on the other tractor. I hope I didn't just ramble on, and I'll try to get it organized so it makes sense. But overall, would I do it again? Yes. I'm happy with the tractor. Would I have gone for more horses and more money? Sometimes I feel that way. Sometimes I don't. So I can't really answer that question. You can never have enough power, right? But at the same time, there's a cost associated with that in a variety of ways, both with maintenance, the amounts of liquid, the amounts of fuel, the amounts of real estate it takes to park it, and all that good stuff, besides, of course, the price tag. So this is our most popular tractor at the dealership, the 2620, at least over the recent past. And it's because it does a lot with, the investment for the money, basically, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I am happy with it. I'm going to be doing my 50-hour service here shortly. Will I get a bigger tractor? Maybe. Will I tune this one up? Maybe. I don't know. Um, One of the things, and it has nothing to do with the track, this particular model, I think it's just the times, is that, the seat safety switch and the gear safety switch were two things I didn't have on my other tractor. They drive me crazy. And I can tell you now that there's no safety seat switch on here anymore. That's a personal decision. It's something that you have to decide on your own. But I'm constantly moving and getting in and out of the tractor, having to start it and having to be in the seat, not ever get out, not ever even look up to see where your forks are at, and having the tractor shut off drives me crazy. There's a lot more real estate to wash too, if you want to keep it clean. I think the cab's worth it. It's kind of nice to be in a controlled climate. So overall, happy. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it, and hopefully this was informative. If you're on the ropes about what decisions you're going to make about your tractor, I hope this helps. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Leave them in the comments. Thanks. Talk to you soon.